Good evening, guys, and welcome to this video. It's not the dog pound or the dog house, but I figured with everything happening and, kind of talking to Will last night, texting with Will last night, and knowing that he kind of has life happening right now with everything. I told him I would kind of do my best of trying to take care of maybe doing some previews and everything like that, since we haven't really seen any of it and everything like that. And that is no fault of Will, because as we all know, he is now has been an admin for the last year and such, and admin life, I know Billy has gone through that, and I never plan on being an admin. I don't have the organization skills, and I don't have the patience and or the sanity or whatever to do it. So I can't imagine what Will is going through, but my hat's off to you. That all said, Will, you're still doing an amazing job of running this league and being an exemplary commissioner, even though sometimes you probably might not feel like it. I'm pretty certain you still do a great job. So basically, imagine this. Will has done the previews in the past. It's kind of like this. And I'm going to kind of use an SNL analogy here, where you get the bartender. You always go to a bar and see the bartender you like, and he knows what you like and stuff, and you mix it up and everything, and knows how to do it just right. But then in comes the new guy and doesn't know anything how you like it and such, and when he does it, it might not be as good. But I'm the new bartender, so to speak, for the time being. As you can tell, Be Green, not kind of honor for you a little bit, doing some of the Bay Sox, which I know you got your little wonderful hat from. I got it the year before they became the Chesapeake Bay Sox, so it's not the same, obviously, but still pretty good. So we're going to do the preview and such tonight. I do want to talk about, I don't really want to talk about what happened last night per se, other than, it happened. That's all I can say. I'm just going to leave it at that, in all honesty. But I will say this, I've been one of the newer guys in this league now, but almost for 10 years. I think I started back in 2016. And I'll say this, I've really enjoyed being in it, in this league for the most part. It's kind of rejuvenated my love for baseball and getting into it and everything like that. Yeah. And, getting to know a lot of you guys through the meetings and everything and chatting with you, Will, I have the utmost admiration and respect for you, and as much as I love giving you grief and everything, which I'm going to continue even on this video, I enjoy it. What I think of you as a person in general. And basically, a lot of you guys, I think you guys are all awesome. Just an honest take. We have our little squabbles and stuff, but happens. But I don't take anything personally. I try to keep it sports related and everything like that, because that's who I am and so forth. So my only regret about this league is Rymart, this goes here, and we kind of talked about it last week when we were trying to make a trade, is that I just wish that had we known that we were neighbors prior, it would have been pretty cool. But it is what it is. All right, so enough of all this lovey-dovey romance crap. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about the upcoming week of fantasy baseball. And it's interesting. I would say right now, of the 12 teams, maybe 9 of us are fighting for 6 positions, for the playoffs. I thought last week that I thought, I definitely think there's one of us that's definitely in at this point, but I definitely think that there's, and I thought I was going to be one of the other ones. But after last week's loss, I brought myself back into the clutter that is, everybody fighting for the playoffs. So it's going to be a fun run, even though I definitely think a few of us at this point are in major trouble. But, crazy things have happened. I mean, there was a team last year in baseball that had a 0.2% chance of getting into the playoffs last year in around August, and they somehow managed to sneak into the playoffs and beat the Astros and take the Guardians to 5 games last year. I'm trying to remember that team. Oh, yeah, the Tigers. All right, so let's get started. And we'll start with probably the game of the week. And I'll just leave it at that. Which is going to be Jeremy against Ben, which is Jumbo versus Total Baseball Team. Last week, Jeremy walloped Anthony 10-3. It may not have been as close as it sounds. I mean, it may have been close as it sounds or it looks. Jeremy got a lot of those offensive stats, very close in a lot of those. But basically, Jeremy won over with pitching over Anthony. And then Bedell took down Reimart, taking out Reimart in all the offensive categories and just obliterating everything, his offense obliterating everything he saw. So, right now, I mean, Ben is just on a roll. He's 5-1 in his last 6 games. He's got a couple of powerhouses, Eugenio Suarez, James Wood. Whew. I mean, it's funny that, with the Nationals, they're dead last in the NL East, but they got some players on the hitting side for sure. Wood, C.J. Abrams, and a few other guys that really have high hopes, and I think the Nationals are going to be a threat. Maybe not this year, especially not this year after they canned Dave Martinez and Mike Rizzo, but down the road, I really wouldn't want to go against the Nationals if you're an NL East opponent. Braves. So yeah, and also it's not just made up of those two guys that Ben has. Josh Naylor, solid contribution. Zach McKinstry, my boy in Detroit, he's been sneaky good, and as a Tigers fan, he should be in the All-Star game, but can't get everything you want. And the thing is, his offense can get better. That's the scary part. Pitching, he's strong at pitching. I mean, Benson has a lot of things going for him right now, and he's going to be a tough out the rest of the way. As for Jeremy, he's been rolling too. 8 of his last 10, he's been unbeaten in. He's got some power guys, Alonso, Schwarbaby, Olsen, PCA. He's got it. I do have questions with some of the others, though. It's like Bo Bichette. I've never been the biggest ardent Bo Bichette guy ever. I just don't think he's that great of a player offensively. Then again, I would take him over Nick Ellen for the Braves, but not here. JT Clement messed up there. Ernie Clement for the Blue Jays. He's had a nice season, but how much can it go? And there are a few other pitching concerns I have about that group, but pitching. Anytime you have Skeens in the rotation. Ranger Suarez, Peralta, Matt Boyd, all those guys are just dealing right now. So, I mean, this is going to be a fun matchup. I'm hoping, Jeremy is, thinking that, everything all should be good, and hopefully he stays. I really enjoy talking with Jeremy whenever we're at our meetings and drafts and such. For my pick, this is going to be a close one. I think right now I'll have to give the I gotta go with Bedell on this one, barely, but it's gonna be close. I can see this game go either way. So, I'll give Ben the nod for this week. Next battle for the week will be the Battle of the Ryans. It's the Los Angeles Deferreds versus the De La Cruz Control. Last week, Deferreds edged Will, Ricky Vaughn 7-5, and basically did it with the offense. And he got a couple ties on the pitching side. Because Will had a good week pitching, but Ryan did a little bit better of just kind of keeping pace with him, so that's something to look at. And then De La Cruz Control. Basically, he kind of ran into a buzzsaw with Ben's offense at that point. Just couldn't match up. Unfortunately, it ended his 3-game win streak. And basically, Reimart, the offense fell apart for you last week. That's basically how it went. Abreu and Pascucino did their thing, but basically that was it. And the sad part is, your pitching just killed it. I was looking at your numbers, I was like, holy cow. That's just like unjust. That was just unjust stuff going on right there. So yeah, it stung for you last week. I would have said that you would have done much better. But there you go. But you got some great pictures, and you even got a Zach Littell gem, which I spot charted Zach Littell a few times this year, and he never gave me that. So you did something right with him, and I didn't. So that's kind of the problem with that. For the Deferreds, gosh, 281 average last week, over 800 OPS, and the pitching was solid enough to keep close with Will. So you did great. You have a lot of power guys that went off. Raleigh, an MVP candidate. I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP, but he's going to get some votes. It's a Trevor Story sighting this last week for sure. He raked, and then Soderstrom and Churio all did well, and then you threw in a little bit of that power to balance out with some average and got Luis Ariz. I guess my only concern with you at this point is the pitching, and can it be consistent? Bubic, Peterson, and Keller. You have Eovaldi, great pick. Can you get more guys to help you out there? That's kind of my question on that. So, in the Battle of Ryans, I'm picking Ryan to win, obviously. Which Ryan, I'm going to give the nod to Walker on this part. Barely. Again, this is another battle I can see go either way. It wouldn't surprise me. At least Reimart wins. But I'm going to pick Walker just for a little bit more of the advantage of overall hitting. All right, so let's go to two teams that I'm looking at that just haven't gotten it together this year. For whatever reason, it's like you think, and I know one thinks that he's on the verge of climbing out of that hot mess in everything, and that's Anthony, and you're going against Code Nobes, which is whatever Anthony's team name of the week is, which currently is Enough is Enough in honor of the late great Owen Hart, and then against Code Nobes, which is Dang the Torpedoes. And I'll start with Cody. I was going to start with Ant because it's always fun to give Ant some grief. But the thing about Cody is just, it's kind of weird not seeing Cody at the top of our league. The last 7-8 years, he's always been kind of rocking and rolling and whatnot. But he's just kind of scuffling at this point, and it's just, really weird to see. And the thing is, like, some of it wasn't his fault because D-Harb just blew the doors off him last week offensively. And then pitching, and the thing was, like, he didn't have the pitching to offset that. So that's why Cody lost last week. It was like a couple of extremes. You had some players who just performed well, like Rose Arena, Jazz Chisholm, Langoliers. Those guys did great, but then the rest of the lineup just couldn't complement it. And I know in fantasy it's kind of hard to get everybody on the same page. I get that. But yeah, so I definitely think that was kind of more of your downfall. I mean, normally probably the week you had, you probably would have beaten a few teams. This week you would probably beaten my team, but it just couldn't happen. Couldn't happen for you. Anthony. 3 straight weeks you have been blown out from the total categories thing. 31-8. You've only won 8 categories in the past 3 weeks. You're getting destroyed worse than a Colts quarterback at this point. Facts. But the irony is, Anthony, I'm looking at your team, and I like your offense. It's very good. And I'm very, very blessed that I took Aaron Judge away from you, because you would have had another reign of terror happening. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one, because I'd be really worried about what you would be able to do. I mean, your offense is still a strong offense. Pitching, losing Sale was damning for you. Let's be clear on that. Because, I mean, if you're hoping Mad Max is just going to come back and look like 2019 Mad Max, you're in trouble. I don't know what you're going to get out of Shohei at this point. And you basically laid a huge turd last week in the Punch Bowl when you played, when you went up against your opponent, which was Jeremy, and he basically thumped you pretty good in those categories. So offense is fine. Your pitching, it's going to be your downfall this year, and I think that's what's already happening. And losing Sale hurts. Even if he was healthy and doing his thing, I don't know if you have enough to really muster anything at this point. So yeah, so making this one, it's another one that's kind of like a tough battle here. I hate saying this. I'm going to pick Anthony to win this week, because that offense is very good. I don't think he's going to have another punch bowl turd week with his offense. So that's why I'm giving a slight advantage to Ant on this one. I just think his offense is pretty strong, and it's up there with some of the better offenses in our league. So let's move on to the Battle of the Harbors and Chief Trophy, which is A-Harb and D-Harb. And last week, Alex handled B Green with ease, which most people can. Sorry, B Green. And then D-Harb, 2 weeks in a row with a dub. And I was kind of looking at D-Harb's last 5 weeks, including those two. He could have gone 4-1, guys. Like, his team might not be as bad as what the record says. Lost by a point to Bedell on, early, and then basically I beat him on Andy Pajes home run to win that game, to win that week against him. So he could have easily been, he's 4-10 now, could be 6-8 and in the middle of a run in the thick of things at this point. In regards to all this, A-Harb's doing A-Harb things. That offense is excellent. It's you can make an argument it's the best in the league. I wouldn't argue with that. Personally, I would argue with my offense is the best, but I don't have an issue saying his offense is better. He just obliterated B Green last week with his offensive numbers. That said, though, he should be very thankful B Green's pitching was just Colorado Rockies-esque in just giving up everything under the sun, because to look as dominant as did, because his pitching did struggle. The spot sharding that he does real well didn't really pan out. Then again, my spot sharding didn't do too well either. But he just has so many good, just so many weapons at this point on offense that it can offset the pitching woe, some of the pitching questions. So, I mean, and the thing is, he's gone with a lot of Angels offense, which is a great thing because right now the Angels offense is actually pretty good. So, power to him for that. He has DeGrom, who's looked like Jacob DeGrom of old. So there's that going for him. So I think, he'll make better moves this week. That'll help him out to get, to improve that pitching. So I'm not going to be too concerned because, let's be clear, he's A-Harb. He knows what he's doing. D-Harb, as I said, I mean, he's been playing, his teams have been better. He's relying on old faithful Cody Bellinger. He was the guy that helped him get to the championship game in 2019 in the year of the Sav Dog. Came up short, obviously, because it was my year. But he also has some guys, Seiya Suzuki, MVP caliber season. And a guy I'm really liking is from the Blue Jays, not Bichette, not Vlad Jr., but a guy named Addison Barger. He does everything right. That's one thing I like. I watch Blue Jay games when I, on my TV and such, and I was like, this guy's pretty good. And got to see him play in Toronto when I was up there, and he sent a few rockets around out on the baseball field when I saw him, including a big home run. So, he's doing fine. And then you got Spring the Ding, which has been a topic of debate for this league for a while. So that's good. The only question, though, is the pitching. Is Garrett Crochet, great pick. What else does he have? That's kind of my concern right now, is there's just not a lot of pitching that D-Harb has. And with that, even if A-Harb does struggle with pitching, I do think he'll have enough to take down D-Harb this week. So A-Harb wins the Battle of the Brothers Harbor and sweeps his brother D-Harb in the season series for 2025. All right, let's move on to B Green and Billy Ball, which is the Dun Kings and Drunk Lemurs. A lot of D's to going around on that one. B Green just got smoked to shreds by A-Harb, as mentioned, and Billy Ball took me down pretty easy, even though I made it a little close. It was really domination by Billy all week. I wouldn't say that Billy did not have a great week. I just sucked worse than he did. I'll just leave it at that when I get to my preview. B Green, I love you. You're one of my favorite people for sure, just by your positive attitude and everything. And I pull for you when I don't play you. But good Lord, I don't know what to tell you about your offense. I mean, you basically relying on Torkelson and Rafaela last week to find a way to beat it, to win. And if you're relying on that, I don't know what to say. It's yikes. And your pitching last week just, God. I mentioned it, A-Harb's pitching wasn't great, but yours was like suckiest bunch of sucks that ever suck type thing. No offense. Even Strider fell apart. It was like, it seems like your fantasy players that you have, like, they all text each other and say, how can we make B Green suck this week? How can we suck for B Green? That's how it feels right now for you. And the sad part is, you've had some good weeks leading up to it. You just couldn't, it just fell apart this past week for you. And yeah. So you better start giving them steroids or give them gummies or give them both, or steroid-infused gummies or gummy-infused steroids. I don't know. Whatever you need to do, get them going. Billy, again, as I said, you and I both laid giant turds. Your turd wasn't as giant as mine. You got the win. You deserve to win. I'll leave it at that. You got some good players on the offensive side, especially you kind of have an advantage. You have Wilson and Turner. I've always been a fan of Trey Turner. And then Soto in the past month is just looking like the Juan Soto that the Mets had hoped for. I still don't think he's worth that money, but that's neither here or there. The pitching, you better hope some of those pitchers start getting together. Gascan has not looked great. Kershaw, he made the All-Star team. I liken it to more of based on name brand than anything else, and because he's a Dodger. And then Cease hasn't, he has ceased to be an elite pitcher this year, it seems like. It just seems like there's potential, but it's not showing. And that's kind of, as moving forward, if you don't get that key pitcher, I don't know how deep you can make it to the playoffs, because I definitely think you'll make the playoffs. I just don't know if you can get to that point of winning anything with that pitching at this point. No offense. And also, I am picking you to beat B. Green because, you do have some pitching, and even though you're hitting, and even though your pitching isn't great, it might be good enough to take down B. Green. So, Billy, I'm going to give you the win. And last but not least is yours truly versus Will the Thrills. And as much as I want to brag, I don't want to brag, but think that this is going to be like a easy week for me. I'm one of the few teams that did not beat Will earlier this year. We drew, and I don't take anybody in this league lightly anyway. So I'm definitely going to be hoping that my offense figures things out, because I told someone last week that, my offense is like the reverse of a Russian roulette. You put all the, bullets except for one round in there. You spin it. Who do you want to lose to this week? You want to lose to Riley Green, Aaron Judge, C.J. Abrams, and such. Well, last week, spun it, pointed it at Billy, and it shot a blank. There was nothing in there, so my offense kind of struggled last week immensely, which is weird because my offense has been on a roll all year except for last week. So that's where I'm at. I definitely think I have the hitters to do it. My pitching, a lot of people question my pitching. I do have, that said, I have Zach Wheeler. I have Framber Valdez, and I have Casey Mize, who's had a good year. Outside of that, that's where the drop-off happens. So I got to get something outside of those three, and that's kind of my concern at this point. But for Will, I know people are giggling that you've only won one game. I'm not. I really am not. I know I just laughed, but I really am not laughing about it. And I'm thinking years past of the people we've had in the league, notably Gainesville, Steve, and Sneed. I don't think I would figure one of those two would have had just one win at this point. I probably need to go back and see if Sneed actually pulled something like that off. But anyway, yeah. And when I see the offense, it's holy cow, Will. And I see why you're trying to make trades to get that offense better, because it's just not great. And, you had that run for a while with Devers, and not to pee off Alex here, he's kind of cooled off since he's been traded to San Francisco. I'm not saying he's done bad, but he's not doing what he was doing in Boston. And I kind of figured that was going to be the case, but, it's going to take more than Devers for Will's offense to get rolling. Pitching-wise, it's not terrible at this point, especially if George Kirby and Sandy Sandy gets it together. If they string it together this week, Will has a fighting chance. But with all that said, I am picking me for the dub, because I'm always going to pick me for the win, because I just think my offense is going to get back on track this week and just run amok before the All-Star break. So, yeah, and Will's misfortunes in BFFFL 2025 continues. So, that is the preview that is. And my picks again: Bedell, Rywalk, Big Ant, Aharb, Billy Baseball, and yours truly. And that's basically it for the week. Now, I wish you all the best of weeks, and stay cool outside. It's hot all over the place and everything of that sort. And stay cool on the chats, and look forward to hearing from you guys, and enjoy the week. Sav Dog out.